Europe prefers its monsters simple, because simplicity creates distance. A single man labeled as aberration is easier to condemn than an entire system built on fear and coercion. In later centuries, Vlad III would be flattened into a symbol of cruelty, his name welded to a single method of death, as if that violence emerged from personal madness rather than political necessity. This version of history is convenient because it allows Europe to imagine itself as civilized observer rather than participant. It suggests that terror was an exception, not a shared language spoken fluently across borders. The world that formed Vlad was not shaped by ideals, but by geography. Wallachia existed as a frontier, a narrow strip of land pressed between powers that did not negotiate from weakness. To the south expanded the Ottoman Empire, disciplined, methodical, and relentless in its demand for tribute and obedience. To the north and west stood Christian courts that spoke of shared faith while offering little protection when invasions came. This border did not generate balance, it generated exposure, and exposure bred a politics where survival outweighed virtue. Tribute was not symbolic, it was enforced reality. Gold crossed borders alongside grain and livestock, and when those proved insufficient, sons were taken instead. Hostages were not an aberration, but an administrative tool, ensuring compliance through absence and fear. It was whispered in villages that the land itself learned to anticipate invasion, that fields fell silent before armies appeared, though later chroniclers debated whether such accounts were exaggerations born of panic. What cannot be disputed is that fear became habitual, woven into daily life long before swords were drawn. Vlad grew inside this arrangement, not shielded from it, but consumed by it. As a youth, he was delivered to the Ottoman court, not as an honored guest, but as collateral, a living guarantee of his father's submission. The court he encountered was cultured, educated, and uncompromising, a place where hierarchy was enforced with clarity and punishment was never hidden. Some later claim that cruelty was learned there, absorbed through observation and repetition, though many historians regard these claims as convenient rumor rather than documented fact. What remains certain is that Vlad learned how authority functioned when it was absolute, and how fear could be organized rather than improvised. When he returned to Wallachia, the ground beneath his rule was unstable. Local nobles shifted allegiance as easily as seasons changed, loyalty purchased and withdrawn without warning. The Ottoman threat never retreated, it only recalibrated, waiting for weakness to surface. Governance in such an environment was not sustained through affection or consent, but through signals that discouraged defiance before it could gather momentum. By 1462, that pressure reached its breaking point. Mehmed II marched north with an army seasoned by victory, an emperor whose forces had already shattered Constantinople and redefined what conquest looked like. His soldiers were experienced, his supply lines secure, his confidence reinforced by momentum. Vlad understood that meeting such a force in open battle would not end in negotiation or honorable defeat, but in erasure. Wallachia would be absorbed, its ruler remembered only as a footnote. The decision that followed was not impulsive. Later generations would describe madness, bloodlust, and unrestrained brutality. Yet contemporary accounts of the campaign reveal planning rather than frenzy. Vlad refused the terms of conventional warfare and instead transformed the land itself into a weapon. Wells were poisoned, crops destroyed, villages emptied until the invading army advanced through silence and decay. Night attacks disrupted rest and eroded certainty, creating exhaustion that no armor could repel. Then came the forest. Impalement was not invented by Vlad, nor was it unique to his realm. Across Europe and the Ottoman world, bodies were displayed as warnings, broken on wheels, suspended on hooks, or left to rot along roadsides. What distinguished this moment was not the method, but the scale and placement. Thousands of bodies were raised on stakes, arranged not chaotically but deliberately, forming a landscape of death that confronted the advancing army before battle could even begin. According to later reports, the sight halted the Ottoman advance, not through superstition, but through calculation. Soldiers faced a message written in flesh, a declaration that resistance would not end with defeat, but with annihilation of dignity itself. Some claimed the arrangement followed ritual patterns. Others insisted this was myth added after the fact, an attempt to impose meaning where terror alone sufficed. What cannot be denied is the psychological effect, because fear does not require belief, only recognition. This was not punishment in the judicial sense, nor was it ritualistic cruelty. It was asymmetrical warfare executed through spectacle, a language understood across cultures and empires. Vlad did not seek chaos. He sought hesitation, and hesitation was enough. The Ottoman army withdrew, not defeated, but unwilling to advance further into a territory where victory promised no relief from horror. In the years that followed, the story hardened into legend. Europe, uncomfortable with the mirror held up to its own practices, reshaped Vlad into something unreal. He became vampire, demon, aberration, a creature of myth rather than a ruler operating within the brutal logic of his century. The myth served a purpose because it allowed distance, and distance allowed denial. The legend is the shadow that survived. The forest of stakes is the substance that cast it. And if terror stopped an empire once, the question that remains is not why Vlad chose it, but how often history has chosen the same path and simply changed the name.